Well, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and we're reading Luke's Gospel, chapter 14. This particular pericope and the following one are in fact Lucan material. They're not in the other Gospels. And the first one is a man suffering from an unpleasant disease of dropsy. Kai geneto en to elthein auton es oikontinos ton akonton, ton in brackets, pharisaion sabato, phagain auton kai autoi es in paraterumenoi auton. In fact, this particular pericope and the next one are probably connected together because they're stories about dining and when Jesus is invited to dine with Pharisees. So these dining stories in Luke come together. We're not given any sense of the time or how it fits in with the chronological saga. So it came to pass that when he was in the house of one of the rulers of the Pharisees, Sabbato, on the Sabbath, phagain infinitive, aorist infinitive from esthio, to eat bread, and they themselves were paraterumenoi. The paraterio is used various places in the New Testament, especially in the Gospels. It's used generally of being watched closely, and generally it's the Pharisees that are keeping a beady eye on him. So they themselves were watching him closely. Kai idu anthropos tis ein hudropikos empros thenautu. And behold, a certain man was in front of him, and he was a man who was hudropikos, suffering from dropsy. This is an unpleasant illness still with us today. It involves the swelling of the feet, apparently. It's not used elsewhere in biblical Greek, but this word, of course, does occur in medical writers, such as Galen. And that's to be expected given the tradition that Luke was a doctor. It literally means watery eyes, but it's really, apparently, the symptoms are swelling of feet, but it can also affect other organs. Kai apokrithes ho Jesus epen prostus nomicus kai Pharisaios legon. And Jesus, having answered, he said to the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, legon, saying, and we get a question here, exestis to sabato therapeusai eu. This is a question we get several times in the Gospels. Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? We get a dative here, time at which. So is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath, eu or not? Hoi de hezukasan. Now this is from hezukazdo. An interesting word. Hezukos means quiet or silent. So here this is the verb hezukazo. They kept their silence. They remained silent. Kai epi labominos I asato auton kai apelusen. This is from epilambanamai. It's to take hold of, but not necessarily in a violent way. But so having taken hold of him, I asato, from I aamai, this is the aorist, he healed him, kai apelusen, and he dismissed him. It's from apoluo, to send away, to release, so to dismissed him. Kai prosautus apen, and he said to them, we get another question here, tinos humon, huios ebus, es phria pesetai, kai uk eutheos anaspase auton en hemera tu sabatu. Now it's literally of which one of you your son or ox will fall into a well. So it's something like if the son or ox of any of you, of a certain one of you, will fall. This is the future from pipto. If you're looking this one up, this is pipto, to fall. Aorist is epeson, the root is pes, and the future goes into the middle, it's pesumai, and it's a contract in the middle. In the future is a future middle contract. So we'll fall into a fria, a well, and not immediately anasparse will you draw him or it, depending on whether it's the son or the ox, you draw him out on the day of the Sabbath. So we paraphrase a little bit in English. So if the son or ox of any of you will fall into a well, will you not immediately draw him out on the day of the Sabbath? Kai uk iskusan. Now Luke uses iskuo in the sense of it means to be strong, but he often uses this in place of dunamai, to be able. It's literally they were not strong enough to give an answer in regard to these things. So they were not able, from iskuo, and apokrithenai, it's apokrinomai plus anti at the front. So to give a reply in turn, or give a reply back, prostauta in respect of these things, or to these things. The next little pericope also probably connected with this earlier one, because again it's all about dining and being at a meal. And again, this is Lucan material, it's only in Luke. Elegende prostus kekleimenus parabolein, epekon pos tas protoclesias ex elegonto, legon prosautus, etc. So he began to say a parabolein, a parable, to those who were invited. Understand, to a feast. This is from Kallio, this is the perfect passive participle here. So he began to say to those, a parable to those who were invited. Epekon is rather elliptic here. You've got to supply something like ton noon. It's holding, so holding one's mind, we would say turning one's attention. So you've got to supply ton noon here, turning his mind, turning his attention to pose how ex elegonto. Now this is from that leg root of choosing, not the speaking. There's two legos in Greek. One is to speak and one has the idea of choosing, and this is the second one. So how they were selecting or choosing out the protoklesias. This is the first places at table. So they had a pecking order of who sat where at dinner, and this is the noun here, protoklesia, referring to the chief places at the table. So he turned his attention to how they were choosing the first places at table. Legon prosautus, saying to them, Hotan klethes. Now this is the aorist passive subjunctive from Kallio. Kallio means to call, but it also can mean to invite, which is an old meaning. You'll see it in Homer. So Kallio, to invite. So whenever you are invited, the aorist passive subjunctive, hupotinos, by anyone, eis gamus, to a marriage, literally to marriages, plural, but Greek often uses plural for singular. So to a marriage, me kataklethes estem protoklesian. Do not recline in the so this again is an aorist passive, but with kataklino here, it's do not. It's just active in sense, I think. Do not recline in the first seat, in the first place. Me poti en timoteros su a keklemenos hup autu. Lest ever, now this is the subjunctive from the verb to be here, lest ever there might be one who is en timoteros, this is a comparative, got that time root of honour, lest ever there might be one more honourable than you, genitive of comparison, being invited by him, that is, by the person who's giving the marriage feast. Kai elthon hot se kai auton kalesas ere soi, and having come, he, this is the same autu from the same he, not named, this is the person in charge, lest he having come, the one having invited, the hot goes with the kalesas. So lest it's the one having invited, set kai out on you and him, having come, ere will say to you, dos tuto topon, give place for this man. So give your place for this person. Kai toti axe meta iskunes ton eschaton topon katekain. And at that time, toti, you will begin with, well, it's literally shame, but probably we'd say embarrassment here in English. You would begin with some embarrassment, katekain. It's to take down. So it's just to take or to go down to the last place, the eschaton topon. Generally because all the other places in between have been taken, and so you've got to go to the end of the queue, I think is the sense of it here. So at that time you will begin with shame to, we would say, to go down to the last place. It's literally to take the last, to have the last place, and the kata has that sense of in a downward direction. Al hotan klethes poruthes anapese es ton eschaton topon. Hina hotan elthe hot kekleko se ere soi, phile pros anabathi anoteron. But whenever you are invited, so it's that aorist passive subjunctive from Kallio again, having gone, anapese, this is an aorist imperative. It's from anapipto, to recline, so literally to fall up, but it anapipto means to recline, to lie down in the last place, so to sit perhaps in the last place, in order that whenever the one having invited you might come, ere he will say soi to you, friend, pros anabathi. So arise, anoteron, higher up. This again is a comparison. It's from ano, meaning up to the higher place. So go up to the higher place. Tote and estai soi doxa enopion panton tone sun anakai menon soi, and at that time there will be doxa, glory, literally for you, enopion, before all those who are anakaimenon, reclining, sun, in the compound here, reclining with you. Hoti pas hohupson hiauton tapeno thesatai, kai hotapenon hiauton hupsathesatai. That famous verse there. Everyone, the one exalting himself, the one lifting himself up, from hoops o, it's an omicron contract verb, participle here. For everyone exalting himself, tapenothosatai, this is the future passive, from tape no, another omicron contract verb. Tapenos is humble, tape no is to be humble, and this is the passive, so he will be humbled. And the one humbling himself, another participle from tape no, hupathesatai, will be exalted. So we get a nice little chiasmus here, as the Greeks call it, where you've got hoops, the hupso and tape no and then tape no and hupso in reverse order. Elegant de kai to keklekoti auton, hotan poies ariston edepnon, me phone to spilus su, meditus adelphus su, meditus sungenes su, medit gaetonas plusius, me potia kai autoi, anticalasosi se kai gegeneto apodoma soi. So a long sentence there. So he said also to the one having invited him. So we get here a perfect dative participle from Callio. So it's kekekle, kos, quia kos. This is koti. This is the dative singular. So he was saying to the one having invited him, hotan, whenever you make an ariston a daipnon. Ariston generally is a breakfast. It's any meal other than dinner. So we might just say breakfast, or daipnon is a supper, that is a dinner. Me phone, this is an imperative here from phoneo. You can see from the accent we get phone the epsilons contract, and the accent goes there with the two shorts, the two epsilons. So do not call your friends, nor your brothers, nor your relatives. This is from Sungenes, Sungenes, I should say. Sungenes, your relative. Nor, this is from Gaetone, a third declension, nor your plusius, nor your wealthy neighbours. Me poti autoi, lest ever also they, anticalasosin, this is from Callio, they invite you anti in return. So lest ever they also invite you in return, and genetai, there will be an antapodoma. Now this is from doma, connected with didomi, to give. A doma is a gift. Apo, or giving, apo, back, and then anti in return. So it's recompense or repayment. Lest ever there might be a recompense or a repayment to you. Al hoton dokain poies, but whenever you make a dokain, this is a reception or banquet, it's connected with the verb decamai, to receive, and this is the abstract noun. You get a vowel gradation from decamai, you get doke, a reception. So whenever you make a reception, kale, again another imperative, call the ptokus, the poor, the anaperus. It's another word for the disabled or the crippled. Greek has several of these. The normal one you see in classical Greek is adunatos, the one who is unable to do things. But here we're getting another word, the anaperos, meaning crippled or disabled. The kolus, the lame, and the tuflus, the blind. So call them, and you will be, this is future from the verb to be, you will be makarios, blessed. Hoti uk ekusin ant apodunai soi, for they are not, well, echo often used in the sense of to be able to. So just note that little use. It's often, it's sort of, they do not have the means to get the have into it, but it's often used in the sense, in English we just say that they're not able. You could stress it and say they don't have the means, understood, to repay. So again it's apot, dunai, and then the anti here, and apot and dynamai. So we get a verb, we saw the noun up here, there's the abstract noun here, and now we get a verb formed from the same roots, which picks up that noun there. So that they are not able, or they don't have the wherewithal to recompense to you. And we get the verb again here in the future passive, for and this is impersonal. It will be recompensed to you, ente anastase ton dikaion, in the resurrection of the just. And that's the first section of chapter 14.